Quick correction, extra life coins do respawn when you die. It's the basis of a very famous infinite lives trick. It's Jack's brothers that don't respawn. What they do is lock you out of other content later on that you need to beat the game. We now join Mighty Bomb Jack, already in progress. Stage 4 is where the game really starts to stick it to you. Whereas the first 3 stages were just one screen long, not counting the treasure rooms, and they didn't have much in the way of invisible nonsense, like this treasure chest. Stage 4 throws all of that straight out the window and adds branching paths on top of it. Depending on which path you take, the level could be long or short, extremely difficult or not so much. I'm going to take the longer but allegedly easier path, because there's more opportunity for treasure, basically. And there's also a nice opportunity to explain how Jack's powers work, Part 2. Each has a duration based on the number of times you press the A button after activating it. When you're at the first level of power, Blue, pressing the A button 20 times, and that includes both jumping and controlling your jumps. After 20 presses, you revert back to normal Jack. When you're at the second level of power, Orange, pressing the button 10 times reverts you to Blue, after which pressing it 20 times reverts you back to normal. Similarly, counting the dividing by 2 theme, or continuing the dividing by 2 theme, rather, when you're at the third level of power, Green, pressing the button 5 times sends you back to Orange, and then 10 times to Blue, and so on and so forth. This is pretty important because you need to be at the third level of power if you want to beat the game and get the best ending. This is because part of the requirements for getting the best ending, which, isn't really told to you anywhere, is to collect at least 5 secret coins, which are collectibles that cannot be picked up unless you are green. You can see them, you just can't pick them up, you go straight through them. Additionally, there are some doors to treasure rooms that do not open under any circumstances. There's no Sphinx or anything, and the only way to get through them is to be at the third level of power and bust through them. Of course, this isn't explained anywhere either, which is just... it's incredibly frustrating to have no direction whatsoever and not know what to do unless you buy the strategy guide to a game. And that's basically what Mighty Bomb Jack requires you to do if you actually want to complete it and get the best ending. Now then, the first secret coin that we have access to, and fortunately there are more than 5 in the entire game because they're really easy to miss. The first one is somewhere in this room. Or rather, a Sphinx that opens a completely hidden treasure room to get it is in this room. Specifically, it's right here. This opens up a door in the ceiling over here and allows us to go through to the room where we immediately fall back down because I made the extreme mistake of not holding left and jamming on the A button at the exact moment that Jack finished going through the door. If I hadn't played extremely poorly and gotten thrown back through the door the second I entered it, I would have been able to traverse vertically into that room and find the first secret coin. As it stands, all I found was frustration, and the final segment of level 4. This door down here on the left is where you would wind up if you went through the lower door in the first room of Stage 4. There's just one segment in between there and here. It's not even that hard. It's a much easier and shorter path, even though it's supposedly the harder path. This is an extremely easy puzzle room to get through. The toughest thing about it is that the enemies are going to patrol those top 2 shelves, and depending on how they transform, they can be extremely easy to avoid, or nearly impossible. I have yet to find anywhere that actually tells you how many times you have to push A for the really nasty enemies to come out. In any case, round 4 is cleared, and my bomb kleptomania is at an all-time high. I think that's 4 times the special bonus. I love that special bonus. I literally can't stop myself from trying to get it. It will be my downfall eventually. Well, actually, it's already been my downfall a few times, but you didn't see that. Stage 5 is actually much easier than Stage 4 in my opinion. For one thing, it's not as long, and for another, you can actually get a secret coin here relatively easily, and without the bullshit that was required to get the one in the last level. In fact, there it is right now. I can quickly switch to green and grab it. Now, One of Jack's brothers is also in this stage, but if I were to go and collect it by finding the Sphinx to go through that door down there, and then turning green and busting through another door in that treasure room, without getting the secret coin first, then the secret coin would be gone, and I'd be fucked. Great job, Mighty Bomb Jack. Incredible game design. Speaking of incredible game design, can I let you in on the biggest, most important thing you need to do if you want to beat Mighty Bomb Jack? You'll never guess what it is on your own. Are you ready? The best thing you can do to maximize your chances of beating Mighty Bomb Jack is to never play the Japanese version of the game. If you did, everything would just be more difficult and more time-consuming for no reason whatsoever. Take that Sphinx I just picked up, for example. If I was playing the Japanese version of the game, I would have needed to jump on the left wing of that totem pole 9 times to get it to disappear, instead of just 1. And even if I did, I'd still just fly up and fly back down, and get totally fucked out of the secret room anyways, because I keep forgetting that that's how Mighty Bomb Jack rolls. Oh well. At least there wasn't anything particularly useful in there. This is also the last segment of Level 5. As I said, it's a really short level. It's only 2 segments instead of 4 or 5, or however many the last one was. You lose count sometimes when you have alternate paths. The real catch in this level is that it requires you to do something that you might not be aware you can do. In fact, I'm doing it right now. As you can see, Jack was jumping pretty high right there. Much higher than he normally does. That's because you can actually increase the height of his jumps even further by holding down the up button while you jump. Shockingly, this is actually in the game's incredibly Englishy manual that I don't have. The first time I got to it, I thought I had run into a trap and was completely screwed because I couldn't jump high enough. But eventually, instead of just killing myself, which is what I did the first couple times I wound up in there, I eventually figured out that if you hold down up, you get to jump higher. Before, I thought you actually had to make it into that treasure room that I kept falling out of, but fortunately that wasn't the case. Now, if you see fire down there, you may think that these blocks up to the left are entirely safe, but if you think you know fire, then you don't know Mighty Bomb Jack. Those blocks are also fire and will kill you, even though they look like they might be fluffy clouds that could be safe. Fortunately, Stage 6 is another one of those mercifully short levels that's actually pretty easy, unless you want to go into that treasure room down there. That's another one where there is no Sphinx to open it, you just need to turn green and bust into it. That said, I'm not going to do it because it's a death trap. You can go in and get many 10,000 point balloons, but on the way out, if you're not immediately jamming A and holding down right, you're gonna die, because it'll dump you straight into the fire like it doesn't even care. That's one thing I learned from my failures at going into the secret treasure rooms prior, is that the game has absolutely no mercy on you when you go through doors. Speaking of doors, this level's almost done because it has only 2 segments. Neither segment is particularly difficult either, unless you do stupid things like jump into the fluffy fire that only looks like fire after you've been hit by it once. See, now this is proper fire, and I actually like the tiles beneath it that look kind of like flamethrowers. That's flamethrowers, those are a thing that pyramids have. I've played Illusion of Gaia, I know what's up. Moving into the final treasure room, this one's actually kind of tricky. The problem is that enemies are going to congregate in that upper left portion of the level, and they're just going to stand up there, making it difficult to get the 2 bombs up there. Fortunately, I've got a Powerball right now, but unfortunately, I have an unhealthy obsession with points, which means that now I have to float entirely above those guys if I want to get them. Fortunately, the floating is incredible. You can do some insane stuff with the floating in this game. It's just a damn shame that there's so much bullshit you have to wade through if you want to play around with it. So that's another 3 levels down. I think that's good for now. Just keep this in mind for the next time. This game sold incredibly well. everywhere. That's nuts.